Most productions are based on equipment from different manufacturers. Everything from cameras to graphics, replay servers, all typically made by different manufacturers. So how can a switcher combine all these different manufacturers' signals into one cohesive production? The answer? Standards. We've been using standards in the production world since the 1930s. Typically, standards codified by an organization called SMPTE, the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. We use SMPTE standards at just about every level of production. And there are new SMPTE standards all the time. Most of us have heard of the common standards we use in the production world: SD, or standard definition, HD, high definition, UHD, ultra high definition, which is both 4K and 8K. All of these standards are based on four basic principles: resolution, color space, bit depth, and dynamic range. Resolution is the concept most of us are familiar with. Everything from 720p to 1080i, 1080p, and of course 4K. The greater the resolution of the sources and the outputs, the more taxing it is on the switcher. After resolution, dynamic range is the concept most of us know. The two ideas most commonly used in dynamic range are standard dynamic range, or SDR, and high dynamic range, or HDR. For the most part, standard dynamic range is how almost all live production is done. Next comes color space, with something called ITU 709 being by far the most prevalent color space used in production. However, when HDR is used, we'll frequently see something called Rec 2020 color space. All sources going into and coming out of a switcher use one of three bit depths: 8-bit, 10-bit, or 12-bit, with 10-bit being by far the most common. Now that we have the building blocks of a standard, resolution, bit depth, color space, and dynamic range, we have to combine them together to make a transport, a way to get a signal from one place to another. For example, from a camera into the switcher, or from the switcher out to a monitor. To do that, we use standards such as SDI, HDMI, SMPTE 2110, or a variety of streaming formats. To produce a show with the highest production value, we look for flexibility in the switcher. Flexibility in the form of resolution, for example, 720p all the way up to 4K. We look for flexibility in the kind of signal coming in: SDI in, maybe HDMI out, SMPTE 2110 in, and perhaps streaming out. Flexibility in a switcher is the key to producing the best shows.